These are fights that need to be made next after UFC 309. Starting off with the main event, you've got Jon Jones, who beat Stipe by third round TKO. For Jon Jones, we all know what is next for him. We've known what should have been next for him for months upon months now. And that is the interim champion in Tom Aspinall. I don't want to see Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira. Don't care to see him against Derek Lewis or Jamal Hill or some of these other stupid fun fights as he calls them. It's Tom Aspinall or nothing. If he's not going to fight Tom Aspinall, retire. If he's not going to fight Tom Aspinall, I hope the UFC don't offer him anything else. Dana White did make it clear in the post-fight press conference that he doesn't want to make Pereira versus Jon Jones, and he has also made it clear that the UFC want to make Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, as in Dana White's words, it is the biggest heavyweight fight of all time. I still feel like Jon Jones versus Ngannou would have been bigger, but nonetheless, I want Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. I want to see who the undisputed, the best heavyweight in the UFC is right now. And do you know what? I do think Tom Aspinall will beat him. However, I think it's a lot closer than what people are letting on. I don't think Tom Aspinall is going to go in there and completely whitewash Jon Jones, and vice versa. I don't think Jon Jones is going to go in there and whitewash Tom Aspinall. This is the best fight that can be made in the UFC right now. Jon Jones says he wants fuck you money for it. I hope the UFC give him fuck you money for it. This is the fight that we need to see next. Stipe Miocic, what's next for him? Nothing. The guy retired. Let's move on from him. Stipe, arguably the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time. It's between him. There's a couple of options. I think him and Ngannou, Francis Ngannou is a good option. I probably would give it to Stipe just because he does have the most title defenses, and he does have a stacked resume as well. Stipe Miocic, what a career. Happy retirement. Let's move on to the co-main event. We're going to go for Charles Oliveira first. Charles Oliveira, so he beat Michael Chandler in a very, very one-sided matchup outside of round 5, where Michael Chandler tried to kill Oliveira with back-to-head shots, but we're not going to talk about that. That was in my UFC 309 review. If you haven't seen that, make sure you go and watch it. What's next for Oliveira? I know Michael Chandler had said the UFC had told him whoever wins this rematch between him and Oliveira would be fighting for the title next. And yes, Oliveira had a good performance. He was very patient in there, and he just smoked Michael Chandler. But I'm going to be honest, there's nothing in that fight that makes me believe that Oliveira is going to beat Islam Makhachev in their rematch or Arman Tsarukyan. I personally don't want to see that. I don't want to see Oliveira fight either one of those guys next. For me, what I want to see for Oliveira, and I think it's a perfect fight for him, the BMF title, Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, that there could headline its own card. It's a perfect co-main event for a card, but it could also headline its own card because it will have a title on the line. I don't really like the BMF title. I do think it's very gimmicky, but these two guys are very fitting for it, and I think it's a good way to introduce Max Holloway back in to the lightweight division. Charles Oliveira is 2 or 3, I think he's 2 in the lightweight division, and Max Holloway is currently ranked inside the top 5, so that fight right there could definitely be a title eliminator. I think it's a really fun one to see. It is a winnable matchup for Oliveira. How will Max Holloway look after he's just coming off that big KO loss to Ilia Topuria? Who knows? But that's what makes it so exciting. The rematch, Oliveira, Max Holloway, so many years later for the BMF title. Make it happen. Right, let's talk about Michael Chandler. By the way, I want to clear up, I'm not doing every single fighter on this card. I'm just going to be doing a couple, just fights that I want to see, so I'm not going to be going through the entire card. Michael Chandler. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Michael Chandler. So, Michael Chandler's on a 3-fight losing streak now in the UFC. He's lost to Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and Charles Oliveira. Now, he did call out Conor McGregor. As we all know, Michael Chandler was meant to be the guy to be fighting Conor McGregor on his return. I did say I didn't want to see that matchup, but I take everything back. I want to see that matchup. I think you give Michael Chandler the Conor McGregor fight, even though he lost in there. The reason why, not that I think he deserves it. Michael Chandler has got that Dana White privilege ever since he joined the company. I think it's a winnable matchup for McGregor. I'm a big McGregor fan. I love watching his fights. He's one of the main reasons I got into the sport. I think you do Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor, the fight that everybody wanted to see. I think Michael Chandler didn't take that much damage in there, so he can make a quickish turnaround. Obviously, there was the rumour of McGregor versus Dan Hooker, but let's just give him Michael Chandler. Let's get McGregor a win, and then let's take it from there. I do believe he would beat Michael Chandler. I think Conor McGregor would knock out Michael Chandler. I am very confident in that pick after seeing Michael Chandler last night against Charles Oliveira. I'll be honest, I don't know what the game plan is for Michael Chandler. I didn't understand what he was trying to implement or do in there against Charles Oliveira. I think he's a perfect matchup for McGregor. Even though he ruined everything by taking this Oliveira fight, I think we give him the opportunity to lose to Conor McGregor again. Let's do Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor. Do you know what? The UFC are wanting to go to Saudi in February. McGregor's got that relationship with Turki Al-Sheikh. Let's make that the main event. Perfect. Next up, the last one I'm going to cover. Is the last one I'm going to cover? Let me see. Yeah, Bo Nickel. That's the last one. Bo Nickel beat Paul Craig by decision. All 3 rounds. He beat him on the feet, Paul Craig. Yeah, so the hype for Bo Nickel is officially dead. No offense to Paul Craig. I like Paul Craig. I met him in person at the UFC event, Edwards Usman 3. Great guy, got a photo with him, really dead on the chat too. And he does have some good wins on his resume. But on the feet, I mean, he's as useful as my fucking Apple Watch. This is probably a more dynamic striker than Paul Craig. But anyway, Bo Nickel, I understand he's kind of new to MMA. The UFC see him as a star. They're trying to build him up. Paul Craig was the right move there, in my opinion. I thought he was going to knock out Paul Craig, to be honest. So I'm kind of like, is Bo Nickel dog shit or what? Let's get him a jump up in the rankings now. I think you do Michel Pereira, Bo Nickel. I was thinking maybe Jack Hermanson, but that might be a step too soon. Paul Craig was just ranked outside of the top 15 in the UFC welterweight division. Pereira is ranked number 15, I believe, coming off that loss to Anthony Hernandez where he gets smoked. Let's be honest, he gassed after 5 seconds. I think it is a winnable matchup for Bo Nickel if you're looking at the landscape of ranked opponents. It is a very dangerous matchup as well. I think that there could be a fight night main event and it would be perfect. Stop putting Bo Nickel on main cards of these big events. He isn't main card worthy of these big events yet. Let's stop doing it. It's hurting the guy more in my opinion because he's having these shit performances and it's just making people hate him even more. So I think you do Bo Nickel, Michel Pereira, UFC Fight Night Apex, or ideally you take it somewhere, UFC Fight Night, wherever Bo Nickel's from, or we're in Brazil for Pereira. Don't really give a shit. Those are the fights that I want to see next after UFC 309. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. And as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I will see you all again in the next one.